Shine with Kendell Lenice. Real talk for real people. Let's shine together.
Allow me to introduce myself. Thank you for shining with me first and foremost every week on Shine with Kendell Lenice. I am a certified transformational life coach, speaker, author, as well as a certified financial coach. Each week I hope to elevate you, educate you, and entertain you with our various guests and various topics here on Shine with Kendell Lenice. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to tell a friend. And now on to this week's show. Hey everybody, it is Kendell Lenice and welcome to this special episode of Shine with Kendell Lenice. For those that are listening on June 19th, 2022, it is Father's Day. So whether you listen to this episode live on Father's Day or after Father's Day, the impact will be the same. Fathers often get a bad deal, a bad rap, and often say, hey, the way I'm acknowledged is by a tie or, something, some socks or some slippers or something I can't use. Everyone goes all out on Mother's Day. The lines are wrapped around the building when it comes to taking them out to dinner. All the flowers are gone. All the stores have a line because people are trying to get the Coach bags, the Pandora bracelets, and a whole lot of stuff. But when it comes to fathers, and there's some amazing fathers out there, they don't usually get the just due. So I decided an hour ago, when you hear this podcast, an hour before this podcast started, that I wanted to do a Father's Day special. But I've done Father's Day shows on my podcast or other platforms like maybe YouTube, and I believe even on my podcast some years ago. This is the 8th season of Shine with Kendell Lenice, and I've honored fathers, but not this way. And God gave me the idea to have some fathers on there who have lost their fathers. And some of you know that I lost my father 2 years ago. These gentlemen that I have on today coming up, they have lost their fathers. So I wanted to talk to them about first the impact of fatherhood. 2 are fathers, 2 are not, but all of them have fathers. So I wanted to talk about the impact that their fathers had on them and also the impact of their death. Now, all fathers are not perfect. Some fathers are there all the way. Some are there halfway. Some are there, when it's necessary or needed, whenever that is. And all fathers are not perfect. Everybody's story of fatherhood is not perfect. And I wanted to have these black men on here who society says don't have emotions, don't have feelings, or don't have daddies. I wanted to show differently. Now, across the board, I'm all about education, elevation, and entertainment. And I do all of those things on all of the platforms I'm on or that I have. But some may not know, and some, if you follow me, it's to change the narrative with black people in the black community and have conversations that they don't think we have. So my guest today, I have Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr. I have Reverend Kevin V. Montague. I have Brother Calvin D. Tucker, and I have Mr. Anthony Washington. And we're going to be talking about fatherhood. And I think I told one of the guys, I said, oh, goodness, it might be some crying. And that's okay because they don't think black men cry. But guess what? They're human and they do. So before I introduce my guests, let's start with this week's Life Note. All right, it's time for this week's Life Note. All right, a Life Note is a quote or a saying that gets us through this topic or this week or something to hold on to for the rest of your life. And This is interesting. This was by Brenda Uland. Don't know who she is, but I felt this. The death of a parent or a loved parent is incalculable, lasting blow, because no one ever loves you again like that. The death of a parent is incalculable as a lasting blow, because no one ever loves you like that again. So even if you don't feel loved, or that parent didn't show love, or you were unsure if they loved you, you knew that that was your parent, and it was a strong possibility, even if they didn't know how to show it. And it's a lasting blow when you don't have one of your parents here, whether you talk to them every day or not. It's almost like something is missing and you can't pick up the phone to call that parent. So I wanted to talk to these gentlemen today. Guys, you there?
Good morning. Happy Father's Day to everyone. Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
All right. I want to publicly, as I did privately, say thank you guys for answering the call. As I told the audience, I gave you guys an hour and all four of you showed up. So that makes me emotional right there, that you cared enough to talk about this and you cared enough for me to answer this call and take time out of whatever you were doing. So I just want to say thank you.
Absolutely. Bless you. Thank you. I'm grateful for this opportunity as well. This is a major opportunity to be able to share and encourage one another and encourage others.
I appreciate that. And I was telling them before we started to, and you guys, women would probably be different. And yes, I'm stereotyping. I said, just, give another brother an opportunity and don't cut off or anything. So I think everybody got silent because they were waiting to see who was going to speak first.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. That's it. Let's roll.
Men already, women would have been cackling. Look, I'm stereotyping. All the women going to be mad at me. I'm putting myself in that, so don't even, But it's not a battle of the sexes, although we may have a show like that one day. All right, so I'm going to, whoever wants to go first, or I'll call on names. Let me start with Leroy. I'll start with you. When I ask, because you always answer the call and you're always a part of my shenanigans. And I appreciate it. When I asked you about this show, what went through your mind first?
No, it wasn't. It was just like, okay, it's Father's Day, and I am a big advocate for men and for us being who it is that we're called to be as men and walking in that power that we have as men. I'm not a father, so I was just like, okay, but you put it in the context of men who have lost their fathers. So, so I was like, okay, that's definitely a different take on it.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, because even if you're not a father, you had a father. And I'm going to go to Calvin with that as well, because you and Calvin don't have children, but you had a significant relationship with your father. Calvin?
Absolutely. I wanted to start by saying the way that I am a father is I have a couple of god kids. I have nieces, and I'm also a teacher, and a mentor in entertainment. So those are the ways that I get to see, how part of my purpose in pouring back into young people until I, have my own kids, and along with when I have my own kids. But having my father in my life was amazing. I don't know what it is as a child to grow up without a father, and being a young boy and hearing friends talk about their experiences not having their dad made me appreciate my dad even more when I was younger. That doesn't mean I obeyed him even any better or was a perfect son, but it changed my perspective a lot. And enhanced it, I believe, to appreciate the fact that I'm grateful to have both of my parents in the same house, both actively participating in who I am and who I'm growing to be. And so I'm at a standpoint of just being grateful that I knew him, and don't have a memory without him except, his passing.
I want to say this, Calvin, and thank you for saying that. And I did a post like that. Even if you don't have biological children, and I know Leroy does this as well, like you can mentor, you can be there for other children. You have nephews, you have nieces, you have godchildren, and there's so many different ways to father, even if you don't have your biological children. So thank you definitely for bringing that up. When I first hit you up as you were leaving out of church, what did you think about the concept of the show?
I thought it was right on time because yesterday was our men's ministry, and the topic was manhood. And the first question they started with was, your upbringing, your father's effect on who you are as a man, and what are your thoughts on fatherhood and manhood? And so, I was speaking on the same things that I'll probably speak on here as well. And so it's kind of like when you called. First, you scared me because you started off with, you said, I can't do this without you. I'm like, I don't know where this is going because I don't know if you needed me as a friend and a brother and it was about to get serious and I needed to pull up. Or because I didn't know. The tone was a little different than it normally was because if it was entertainment, it's usually bright and happy. I was like, okay, wait a minute. I was preparing myself for another level of ministry. So, but when you told
and
me
I'm glad you had my back that way. I'm glad you had my back.
What you say?
I'm glad you had my back that way too.
Absolutely. But when you told me about the concept of the show, it matched what happened yesterday, and
wow.
So I consider it continuation of this particular flow of ministry.
Wow. And other fellas, I don't want you to think that you can't agree. We can have a conversation, so I don't want you to think that you guys have to be completely silent. Like if you feel what someone else is saying, do like you would do if they were in the room. But you get what I'm saying, guys? Yeah, you guys can still respond. You can, breathe a little bit. You can still respond. And, if you agree with what they're saying, definitely do that. And we can talk together like that. I was just saying if they were stressing a point, don't cut them off when they're finished. But we can still agree and, have a conversation like if we were all in the room. We could still do that because I think the listeners will enjoy that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to talk to, yeah, definitely, because I want to still have a, organic conversation as long as we can hear each other. That's definitely what we need to do because this is still going out to people. So I want them to be able to listen, enjoy, like if you were home listening to the podcast, you'd be like, yeah, that's right, brother. But I want to talk to Kevin and Anthony because you lost your fathers. And I know Calvin and I lost our fathers like a year apart, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Ours is kind of recent. And then Anthony too. Anthony lost his around the same time as well when I think about it. So Anthony and Kevin, whoever wants to answer first between Anthony and Kevin, how did you feel about this topic? And were you a little hesitant? Because I know the loss of a parent, the father, runs deep. So either one of you can start first.
Well, okay, I'll go ahead. I'll say. Go ahead. Go ahead, Devon.
No, go ahead. You go first.
Okay, this is Kevin, and I lost my dad last November.
Yes.
So everything is still fresh.
Yeah.
When it comes to even talking about my dad, and when you interrupted me during my church worship service, I'm just saying, I'm up here praising the Lord, lifting up His name, Give him the praise. Next thing I know, I get this text message. Kendell saying, "I need you." I'm like, "You don't need me right now. The Lord needs me." So, come on, talk back to him. All right. So, yeah, but it's right on time because this is Father's Day, and this is one of the. It's a major day for me because of how close I was with my dad. And when you brought it up and you sent me that message, I was like, okay, what do I have to share, or am I strong enough to even share about my father at this point, at this time, this day? Because this day is a day of mourning for me.
Yeah, and I forgot it was so soon as November.
A lot of hurt, a lot of pain, a lot of reflection, grief. But also, this is still the day that the Lord has made. He did give me the gift of my father in our relationship. So I don't have to be sad, but I can rejoice in knowing that God gave me the perfect father for me. He wasn't perfect, but he was the perfect father for me. You didn't hear what I just said.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't perfect, but he was the perfect father for me because I am the man.
Somebody has background noise. Is somebody walking or talking or something?
I'm also the father because of him. I'm also the friend because of him. I'm all these things, all because of Leroy Montague, my dad. I honor him with speaking his name because even though he's not with me, I know where he is. He's with the Lord. He was a believer. But one thing is important is that he left me what I needed to be tenderhearted, to be compassionate. That's what the book says in Psalm 103, verse, I think, 13. Tenderhearted and compassionate, because I have 2 children. I'm raising girls.
Twins.
11-year-old twins. So as they see me and as they hear from me and as I speak and as I train them up in the way they should go, it's all because of what God has instilled to me through the example of my daddy. So I'm grateful to be able to share and encourage our brothers on this phone. God bless you all. And also for encouraging anybody that may be listening to this podcast right now. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I thought about that. I was like, that's right. It hasn't even been a year.
Nope.
Because all of us I know Leroy's dad died in 2012. So once Anthony speaks, I want to ask you this, Leroy, after Anthony, because you have Kevin, it's not even been a year, and I think you're the longest going without your dad and losing your dad, 2012, even though that's not that long ago. And I want to talk about the healing process. But Anthony, you got the call. I send similar urgent texts to every guy. Hey, what are you doing I think I asked you, hey, what are you doing at 11:30 or something like that. But what did you think, Anthony? Because you were talking about another podcast a YouTube show that I did that inspired you. And I want to say thank you for that,
Right.
And then I went into the father's one, and I know we've talked about losing our dads. What was going through your mind to talk about it publicly?
It's funny that you should say that because just yesterday, I was encouraging one of my athletes about her relationship with her dad. And after losing my father, one of the things that you do, you don't allow people to talk about their dad and certain things because they got upset with them or anything of those natures. Because what I told her yesterday was redeem the time. You don't have time to waste time. When it comes to why your parents are still here, And one of the things that I was explaining to her yesterday is the loss of my father and then the loss of his own brother 3 months later. And just yesterday I was mourning the death of my uncle because it's like, dang, man, I didn't get a chance to enjoy you with the loss of my father, because we were both going through the same problems with, him losing his brother. And okay, I lost the 2 most significant men in my life 3 months from each other, And that's a lot of part that people don't want to talk about. And one of the things for me, losing my dad just 2 years ago, it never really ends. when you're mourning your father, it never like really stops. The only thing that you do is you deal with it better. Each day becomes a little easier. You learn to cope with what you did have with him. What conversations y'all did have. And knowing that, hey, you did your best. And one of the things that I remember talking to my father last about yesterday, I said, man, you don't have to apologize what you did not do. The fact of the matter is my children don't know that side of you. They know that you've always been there for them. And to me, that was important. That's good, Doc.
Yeah, because I have a similar. You already know my. I was the firstborn. My father was 20 years old when he had me, and as a 20-year-old, like the things that my mom had to be there in the presence 24/7, he wasn't. He still was a 20-year-old, and we had a complicated but loving relationship because, like you said, because of some of the things that, he just, when you get older, you see, I never, like missed my dad or like wish I had a dad, and I always had a dad. But like you said, when different, and he, like Kevin talked about, mine didn't live in my household. They were already separated. So I grew up with, seeing my dad for this occasion or that occasion or coming. So my story is different. And I know, Anthony, you and I talked about, sometimes the mistakes that dads make and how they make up for them as you're older and as you're grown and as you're growing up, and then also reflecting in how they are with their grandchildren, which is a beautiful opportunity to see them that way, So I'm glad that you brought that up, Anthony, about showing that, because everybody, and I think Kevin said it, like, you're redeemed, in a way. And as you get older, you see the significance of life and interaction and healing and growth and finding ways to celebrate people for all the flaws that they have as well, because at the end of the day, we're all human beings just trying to make it and trying to do the best we can.
Absolutely.
Now, who had, and Kevin, you said it, that, even he was just the perfect dad for me. And Calvin said he never knew what it was like to grow up, with his dad not in there. Leroy, what was the relationship with your dad? And you've lost him, in 2012. And has it gotten a bit easier or understandable?
Well, it was on, to be honest with you, when he passed, it was understandable. And I'll put it this way, a few years prior to him passing, I'd lost my grandmother. On my mother's side, I lost my grandmother, which was his mother, and then I lost my uncle, which was his brother, all within like a 2 to 3 year time frame. So I remember having a conversation with him, and we were talking about this thing called life. And I was telling him, I said, Dad, I love you. And our relationship wasn't always the best. Him and my mom had been separated since I was 4 years old, but he was always a part of my life, but not in my life as much as I wanted him to be. I've always said that. But he, and I had some issues growing in my young adult years with that, because he had gone on, he had remarried, he had 6 other kids, within that marriage and everything like that. So I honestly, and I remember telling him this at that certain time too. I think that I don't know if I ever shared that with him, but I felt like myself and my 2 sisters by my mother, we were outsiders. It was like he had his family over there, and then it was just us. But I remember
I understand that.
I
understand that. Ooh.
I remember having this conversation with him. I said, I've come to this realization. He was having all these deaths going on. I said, Dad, I get this life. I said, and we come to a point where I know that we either sit on the front row or we're in the casket.
Ooh.
I said, we've got to go through that. We're either sitting in that front row and we're mourning the death of someone that we care about, or we're in the casket where someone is mourning us. I said, I love you. I said, but I know you, Mom. I said, I love y'all to pieces. I said, but I know y'all got to go. I said, I'm a boo-hoo. I'm a cry. I'm going to go through all of that with you being gone. You know, but I also understood that that's the cycle of life. So when he passed, I went through all of those, you know, that roller coaster that you go through. But that's the grieving process. To be honest with you. That's just grieving. That you've got to go through that process.
Necessary.
Yeah, it's necessary. So I come to, you know, in years, you know, like the brother said, it does get easier. There's still days that it may hurt a little bit more because you feel like there are times where, and I don't know about the fellas on here, but there are times where you feel like you need to have that dad that you can talk to. You know, that it's just somebody that you be like, I'm going through this. I don't know how to get through this, or I don't know how to quite deal with this. And only your father or even another man can understand what you're feeling and what you're going through, because they've gone through what it is that you're possibly going through. So they help you to navigate through that. And everything. So, and like the one brother said, I don't know the brother's name, they said his father's name is Leroy. So he
Kevin, right. I knew, I was thinking that. I knew. As soon as he said that, I said, oh boy, these Leroys.
But, you know, but here's the solace that I get. I think about the things that my father taught me. There's many life lessons that I still use to this day. That he taught me, that I take with me. And even sometimes, fellas, if I'm riding in the car or if I'm doing something, I get this feeling that he's with me. One of my favorite songs that I remember with him was the song by the Commodores.
Zoom.
Jesus is love.
Oh, Jesus is love.
And I remember it because my dad had a paper route, so this shows you how old I am. We go way back. But he would drive. We would get up Sunday mornings, and we would go deliver papers in his car. A white, I don't know what year it was, but a white with red interior Pontiac Magnum. I remember the car. It had a sunroof, and he would let me throw the papers out. Throw the papers out to the porches and everything like that. But it's things like that stay with me.
Yeah.
That I think about. He was a football coach, high school football coach, basketball coach, just athlete. He was an athlete, but taught track, taught basketball. But I would hang out at the school. To this day, I still get some of his students that remember me.
Wow.
And they say I look the same, but remember me. That little kid running around the gym, running on the football sidelines, all of those things. So I see that, and then I'm going to tell y'all that this is the last thing, and I'm done. I look in the mirror, and I look just like my father.
Wow.
So I even see him in my reflection of myself, and I just say, "Yep, I'm my father's father's son." So.
Isn't that something when you see that?
That's good stuff.
Yeah,
Whenever you can go somewhere also, and someone says, like for me, this is Kevin. Someone says, "You Leroy's son." I've never seen them the day in my life. Like when I go to North Carolina, where you Leroy's son. I'm like, yes, I am. Yeah.
It's so
funny. I don't
funny.
know who you are, but you recognize my daddy. Yeah, all right, you can go ahead and say that's Leroy. So I don't even have a first name at that point. It doesn't matter. I'm Leroy's son.
But Leroy, you said something that resonated with me, and I want to make it definitely. I want you fellas to have this, and like Leroy said, that another man understands, and I think that that's so powerful as Black men. You said something that resonated in my spirit, Leroy. You said that you felt like an outsider I have felt that way a time of two when my dad got remarried. And it wasn't I never missed my dad when I was little or anything. It wasn't until I was 29 years old, pregnant with my second daughter, that I realized when I saw my siblings with him, I was like, I guess I missed out, because you can tell the dynamic was different. And that was the first time it ever hit me. I was 29 years old and I was like, I feel like an outsider. So when you just said that, it just resonated in my spirit, because I never felt like that as a child. I didn't start feeling like that until I was like 29. So you work through things, and you said also like have conversations. I think that's so important, to have conversations about how you feel, and you're just not in your feelings, and have the conversation, as I was saying, to see people as adults, to see what they go through, to see what their perspective is and all of that. I think that is so important, to be able to have those conversations while they're still here. Because like you said, Leroy, you can be sitting on the front pew looking, saying, oh, I wish I wouldn't have. And, throughout our life, it was different. And I was there at the hospital. It's amazing. When my father died, of course we had a relationship throughout, adulthood and grandkids and all of that. But skipping that, like even after the ups and downs my father and I had been through, from 29 on, trying to work this thing out for both of us. I've always seen him, always spent time with him, even through that time we were working it out. But when he was in the hospital bed, because he didn't die that time I seen him in the hospital, but later on, like maybe a few weeks later, he did. And when he was in the hospital, like he gave me this look and I gave him this look, like no matter what we dealt through, we love each other. It's forgiveness. It's love. It's I'm sorry. If you know how somebody gives you a look and it says a lot of stuff without saying a word. You guys know what I'm talking about. And he gave me that, and I felt it run through my body, and he did too, because it's all in the eyes, and I'm tearing up now. It's all in the eyes, because at the end of the day, when somebody's leaving here, honey, it don't matter what had happened. It don't matter what it was, it's peace then, because the problem is when people don't reconcile. I think people have a hard time. And Anthony, I know you had a tough conversation with your dad. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. I never forget the conversation we had. It's like, I'm going to go back just a little bit. And one of the things that we had was what it was that he wanted to be, And at 40 years old, I asked my dad, what did he want to be? He said, you really want to know? I said, yeah. He said, I wanted to play for the Eagles. I put my car over. I was like, what? He said, yeah, I wanted to play for the Eagles. And he said, when you actually started working with the NFL and training NFL players and working with Nike, he said, my dream came true. I said, you never told me that before. He said, yeah, my grandmother told me to leave it alone, don't pursue it, go get a job. And spending all the way up, fast forwarding to the end, to our last conversation, is it was mostly like he wished he had more time. I said, Dad, don't do that, man. I said, don't do that. I said, Dad, we did everything we could do, We forgave each other. And I forgave my father, 28, 29 years old as well. And we just started spending more time together. Mm-hmm. And it was like the last year of before he died, he wished me a happy birthday. Mm-hmm. I was 50. Mm-hmm. I was 50 years old, and my father wished me a happy birthday for the first time in my life.
Wow.
Wow. That's major. Wow. Major.
And my mother called. I called my mom, and I told her, I said, Dad just called me and wished me a happy birthday. She's like, he did what?
That's
I was
deep.
like, yeah. And it was like, for 6 to 8 months, all he was trying to do was redeem time. And so it's not like I lost my father suddenly. It's like he was progressively dying from an illness that we knew it was coming. It's like, okay, I want you to take care of my affairs. I want you to handle the insurance. I want you to do this and do that. It's like, not a problem. And it said that there was no reason why your uncle should have had the place that I had in my life. He said Pete should not have had that. And I told my athlete this yesterday. He said Pete should not have had the closeness that me and you should have had. And this is his younger brother, 6 years younger. You know, so it was a hard pill to swallow because it's like he was trying to tell me he was sorry for a whole year.
Wow.
And I didn't let him do it. I was like, Dad, don't do that, man. I don't need you to do that. I'm fine. I'm okay. You know, it's going to be okay. You know, and the day before he died, I fixed him some spaghetti, you know. And he ate a little bit of food. We had a lot of conversations, some private conversations. And then the day that he died, he said, man, would you go pick me up some pancakes? And so when I left, and I came back, and I was the one that found my father dead. You know, so, and this is what I said yesterday.
God gave you that time.
This is for everybody. This is for everyone. When you find your father dead, all the things that he did or did not say or did not do, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yep. It's because you're trying to fix. You're trying to fix at the moment. You're trying to fix what's at moment's notice. You know, and my pastor said you can pray. I said, no, I'm a person that believes in healing. I believe in people being raised from the dead. I believe that. But I knew in my spirit, my dad was gone. I knew this. And at the end of it, while I'm doing CPR and all that, man, you ain't thinking about what he said when you was 10 years old. You ain't thinking about when he didn't show up for your birthday when you were 12, or when he didn't take you fishing. You're dealing with the at the moment's notice situation, and this is really happening, and I may not ever get this back again.
That was a gift, though, Anthony. That was a gift.
Wow.
That was a gift that you were granted.
That's major.
That was a gift.
When I found my dad.
Yeah, I was just gonna.
In November, it was something that God knew that I had to be the one. I have 3 other siblings. I'm the baby boy, and we were taking care of my dad for several years as he was going through his kidney failure, dialysis and everything. And for some reason, I just knew that I would be the one. And I remember the night before being over to his house, and say, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow is it's one of those words. Tomorrow just is never promised. And we keep thinking that we have the time, but the time isn't there. So when that day, get ready to take him through dialysis, because that's what I did every Tuesday. And I was like, okay, walking in, and I was like, wow. At that point, like the brother said, nothing else mattered. Wow. Nothing else mattered. It's like, okay, my daddy's here. What am I going to do? What if this is it? Everything just started rushing into my mind, into my heart. And even to the point of laying hands and praying and asking God, Lord, give me the power. You said I can do this. But then when God says it's my way and not your way, and being comfortable, being like, man, the one that has raised me is no longer here.
It's
the one
just,
that has,
Can I say something real quick, brother?
And then I'm
going to add to what you're saying. And the thing is, I have to say this to share with you, that we have to understand that we can do this, but when your parents has already made up their mind that this is the will of them that they want, you know, even though we can do that, it's because my father said, I don't want to go no further. I said, Dad, but God can heal you. Dad, I'm sorry, but I don't want that. And I had to respect that, because even though it hurt me, is that one thing I have to share with you is that God gave us the opportunity to be the one to find your father. That's your purpose. Yeah. That is that's your right. That's your inheritance.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That you were given this opportunity. My stepsister, brother didn't find my father. I did. You know
Absolutely.
what I asked for, right down to the end.
Yeah.
That he gave me the opportunity to say, you know what? I am the one that's supposed to find you. I'm your son. I'm your natural born. I'm your firstborn. I'm afforded that right. And when you said that, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I wanted to ask, that's powerful, guys. I want to talk to Calvin for a minute. And Anthony, what you said, and I knew that Kevin and Anthony both found their fathers who passed away. And, I mean, both powerful. God had you there in that place for a reason. That was your purpose. That was the destiny. And Anthony, you said no matter what happens, you're not thinking about what happened when you were 12 or when you were this or when you that. And it's just so interesting. Like, when you think about everybody's stories, like my dad never missed my birthday. Like if he was in the house, because he wasn't in the house because they were already, but I would always get a card through the mail. We lived in 2 different states. I would always get a card in the mail with a check in it or a gift, all the way till the day he died. Like I was still getting it like now. You get what I'm saying? So to see the dynamics, and then you have Calvin, who I'll talk about, who, grew up in the house with his father, as well as Kevin. But when you think about different people's stories and you connect the stories and you be like, okay, well, this was the purpose for that one. Okay, this wasn't the same or that one. And I think that's the beauty of fatherhood and being men. And you guys can talk more about being men because I can't talk that experience. I only can talk from the other side, the father-daughter, but father-son is like a deeper connection, and some may disagree, but I see you both as men, and you're raising another man through their actions and the different things that they do. Like I want to talk about also, once I talk to Calvin, about like not being able to pick up the phone. Like, it's just, I lost the text that my father had sent me right before. I lost it out of my phone, and I still have him in my phone. Of course, Dad is there and I see his picture, but I don't see the text anymore. And I just was like, I wonder what he would feel like to have a 50-year-old daughter. I wonder what he would think of the coronavirus and the pandemic, because my dad was humorous like I am, got the little sarcasm and different things like that. And, he would tell me like, oh yeah, you were my firstborn, blah, 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 blah. And, we had a relationship, and even with relationships, they're different relationships than maybe Anthony had with his father, Leroy had with his Calvin, or, Kevin. But I want to talk to you, Calvin, about your relationship in the house with your dad. Was he a present force in your life, in your daily life, or were you unable to appreciate it? And everybody's experience is different. What you got, Calvin?
Well, for me, he was definitely there. For the most part, he was there to make sure your typical, household leadership things were handled. The finances, he worked the heavier job. It's a longer story I'm trying to cut, because my mom worked a very good job as well, but because of my behavior as a young child, she had to quit a very, very good job that she had because I was always being kicked out, or he would always have to be coming up to the school to get me, or coming up to the school for this meeting, this reinstatement meeting. So it was really bonkers back in the day. So my father was there for the most part. If it was sports related, he was always there. When it came to, like the entertainment, things like that, he wasn't really physically present as much. But yeah, it was a blessing to just have him there, to be able to run and show him this, ask him, how do I do this? Or he was always trying to teach me how to do something. My father was the type, he grew up in Hartwell, Georgia. And he comes from that school of, they took cars apart, put them back together, built houses from One of them he built with my uncle by hand. And so, like, different things like that. And I look around, even now, I look around the house to see, and I can see the different things that he built and left. My father was a professional arm wrestler and weightlifter. And so I was able to go with him on trips and things like that, see him compete. And I was able to watch him build his own workout machines and things like that and create his own types of machines. It was an incredible thing. And what's funny what I tell people is, like, when I do stuff in my career, for example, clothing design, things like that, it's all under art. It's all under engineering. And when you watch somebody build a machine, those principles can help you build a shirt or it can help you build something else. You know, those principles carry on. So a lot of things I have from my parents. And so that's what I cherish about my dad. He's like, look, I'm trying to show you something. Because I was a goofy kid. So he would be trying to show me how to change the oil or how to cut the grass or whatever. And I'll listen for like 2 seconds. And I'm off doing backflips, cartwheels. and
I can see that.
Through the woods and stuff. And he's like, come here, Junior. Come. Because I'm Junior. He was Calvin Senior. So he's Junior, come here. Nobody knew my name back in the day. I was Lil Don and Junior. That's what my name was. So yeah, I look back and laugh on them times. Like, he tried to show me everything in terms of how to maintain your house, in terms of how to be a man. And I listened as far as I could. What do you call it? As far as I could for the moment, you know. And then I was on something else, and he's reeling me back in. It's hilarious as I go back over those memories. But those are my most cherished memories when he was trying to teach. He was always teaching. And what's funny is how you said you think about your dad and say, you know, you wonder if he's thinking, like, what he's thinking about having a 50-something-year-old daughter. And I feel the same way about my dad. As soon as I got my current position as a high school teacher, I often think about, wow, I wish my dad could just come to the classroom and see me, or like, because my father knew certain things about me. There are a lot of career paths or hobbies that I chose that my father was not with. Now the women in my family supported me 100%. It don't matter what I wanted to do; they had my back for the most part. My father always wanted to question and second guess whatever creative choices, whatever entertainment, career choices, if they were not, in his mind, solid, if he wanted me to be successful and be able to retire, be able to have a solid plan in place. And something like acting is not that. It's, you know, on paper, it's not solid. It's not the foolproof plan. And so my father couldn't get with a lot of that stuff. But there were certain things, like broadcasting. When I went to college for broadcasting, he was so behind that. Because that's something you can follow. That's something you can trace to a solid position and take care of your family and leave a legacy. And so teaching for the past 12 years, I have been able to, you know, talk to him about stories or what I'm going through with young people or what my passion is. And he's been able to give me, you know, direction or suggestions as a substitute and a teacher assistant. However, he's been on the journey, but he passed away before he could actually see it, physically be here to see it come to fruition. You see what I'm saying? And so that often hits me a lot, like, wow, I wish he could, you know, see that I'm an official teacher now and what my process is and what I'm going through now, to be able to have those conversations with him on this side of the career. So.
Thank you for sharing. And that leads me to, so I want to ask all you fellas, we're going to take a quick break. And I want to ask the fellas what the biggest lesson was they learned from their dads, and what do you wish your dad can see now? So you're going to think about it for a moment. We'll be right back. Thank you for shining with me, Kendell Lenice. If you're here for the very first time, thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe to the show, and don't forget to tell your friends and family about Shine. We'll be right back. Today's show is sponsored by 617 Lip Love, Organic Lip Moisturizer Balm by K. Lenice. Get yours today at LeniceBoutique.com. This product is for men and women, and its signature flavor, eucalyptus mint. It's the bomb, y'all. Get it today at LeniceBoutique.com. fathersday.com. Protect your lips, heal your lips at all costs. 617 Lip Love Organic Lip Moisturizer Balm. Get yours today at leniceboutique.com. Support Black businesses. Support women-owned businesses. leniceboutique.com. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. I'm so used to doing YouTube, for listening to Shine with Kendell Lenice. We are in season 8, and I'm so proud of this show today. This show is brought to you by Goli Gummy, Goli.com, apple cider vinegar gummies. You can use my code Kendell Lenice for a discount. Goli apple cider vinegar gummies are gluten-free, vegan, non-GMO, unfiltered, and gelatin-free. They help with gut health, digestion, appetite, and so many benefits. You know how your grandmama used to have apple cider vinegar and say, take a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. It is good for you. It still is good for you. And Goli Gummy has the mother in it, which means it's authentic. So go to Goli.com, use my code Kendell Lenice for a discount. All right, fellas, y'all ready? All right, so I'm going to start. I'm going to go Leroy. Calvin talked a little bit about it, but we're going to go further. We're going to go Anthony, then Kevin. All right, Leroy, what was the biggest lesson your father taught you, and what do you wish he could see now from Lil Leroy? Lil Leroy, what they used to call him.
I guess it's several lessons that I learned from him. I'll give you the one I'll say real quick, but then I'll go into the other. One was how to tie. I remember him coming over because I had to do a speech for my high school. I was doing the Dr. King's "I Have a Dream" speech.
I can see that. Lord have mercy, I can see that.
I didn't know how to tie. So my mom calls him up and says, "Hey, can you come over and teach him how to tie?" So of course he comes over, and he literally taught me how to tie in less than 10 minutes. So I've always taken that with me. And I remember as an adult, I had one of my closest friends, brother to this day, can't tie. He'll call me, man, did you come tie my tie? I remember telling my dad, this is as an adult and everything like that. I said, Dad, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for showing me how to tie a tie. Because I see so many men that don't know how to do that simple context, that thing of how to be able to tie a tie, and him taking the time to be able to come and teach his son how to do that thing that we do as men. So that was one quick lesson. But the other one, the other one was nobody owes you anything. Nobody owes you anything, and nobody's going to give you anything. And he honed that in. Like I told you, he was my JV basketball coach in high school. So, quick story. We're going out for the team, and everybody has to try out for the team and everything like that. And I was going out for the point guard position, which it was. And the starting spot was between me and this other young guy. I was better than the other guy, but my dad started him. And we got about 2 games in or so, and then my dad began to start me. And all the other fellows were like, well, why didn't he start me? Why isn't he starting you? Why didn't he play me? I said, I don't know. So, and I think the fellows will relate to this. I got up enough courage to ask my father.
That's funny, yeah. Right.
To say, hey, Dad, you didn't start me at the beginning of the season, but you got a couple games in, and then you put me into the starting lineup. I said, why'd you do that? He said, I did it because of this. He said, I knew you were better than the other young man that I put in front of you. He said, but I wanted you to know that you were better than him, but I also wanted the other guys to know that you were better than him, and you weren't going to get that spot just because you were my son. I wasn't going to just give it to you. You were going to have to earn it. And that's when he told me that nobody owes you anything. Nobody's going to give you anything. Anything that you get, you have to work for it. You got to put in the work in order to be able to earn it. So that's the biggest lesson that he taught. That he taught me was nobody owes me, and I've taken that to this day with my business and everything else. Is that I've got to earn it. I got to get up. I got to put the work in. I got to do the things that I need to do if I want to be successful. So, and then the last part of the question about with him seeing me today, I think I think he's pleased with me and my business and being an entrepreneur, what I'm doing. He wanted me to be a preacher following in his footsteps. He's always used to tell me that I was going to be a pastor. I was going to be a minister like him, my grandfather. And I'm like, Dad, who are you to, that's not for you to say. God gets the final say in that. But the funny thing about it is everything that I do with my business, the foundation of it is God. And what I do. Even the name of my business is J&F Enterprises. And the J&F stands for Jesus Never Fails. So even that, what I do is ministry. So it's not the ministry standing behind a pulpit like he may have seen it, but it's still doing ministry and impacting people's lives in the same kind of way because God is the foundation of everything that I do.
Come on now. Come on, Leroy. I love that. Calvin? J&F.
Absolutely. So one of the things that still sticks with me and that I teach everybody that listens is to have plans on top of plans on top of plans. My father would always be like, what's your plan? You tell me your plan, okay, what's your plan B? He'd be like, huh? Now you got to have a plan B in case plan A doesn't work or in case it doesn't go your way. And a lot of people nowadays I hear a lot of, I only had one plan because there's only one way. They think that it's, it's more spiritual or it's more definite if you say that you don't have any other option, but life is not that way for everybody. So maybe you knew whatever you were going to do and be in life, and it was only one thing and that was it. But for a lot of us, we either have other things that we're passionate about or other visions and ministries that God wants to put us in at different seasons in our life. And so you have to have backup plans. And, the way the world goes, who knows about, COVID? Who knows about natural disasters and things that come? So have plans on top of plans just so that you are prepared as best as you can. And that has stuck with me, and it has proven to be something that has allowed me to really focus and really be great at different things. Excuse me. And in addition to me wanting him to see me as a teacher, would have been if I had ever gotten married and had kids, which I still am single with no kids. But
yeah, I started a whole dating show for Calvin to find him a beautiful bride. I'm still on that. I'm still on it, brother.
Yeah, it's still in my heart too. We're gonna do it.
Yep.
It would be hilarious and beautiful to see how my kids would have turned out, right? And in terms of their personality and stuff like that, and how they would get on my father's nerves, or what things he would attribute to things they got from me versus. That would have just been beautiful to experience with my family and my father if I had one. So
yeah. That's good. That's powerful. Anthony?
Yes. Now, mine was a little later in life. So, remember I told y'all about the whole thing with him wanting to be an NFL player. Mm-hmm. So, what came out of that whole conversation was my father was always the kind of person of telling people not letting people take something from you, But the greatest thing that he ever taught me was not being afraid to tell people no.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say not being afraid to tell people no, is what belongs to you is yours.
Ooh, listen, God has fears for you.
And what that is families always want to tell you what they think you should do and what they think you shouldn't do and what direction you should go because they try to make you, even as an adult, take charge of your life as an adult. And I wasn't afraid to tell my family members no. No, we're not doing it. We're not going that direction. And taking ownership of my gift, because I was supposed to walk away from my gift or what I'm doing right now 10 years ago. I would have never experienced having a nonprofit. I would have never experienced being an NFL player, NFL trainer for NFL players. I would have never been a collegiate college coach, you know, and because I would have walked away from what belongs to me because it wasn't pleasing to others.
Mm.
So with him, it was, no, don't be afraid to say no and stick to your guns.
I love that. Kevin, I love that, Anthony.
So the last part.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead. Go, please.
I forgot to answer one other question you said, and you had said, what would he be proud of me doing right now?
Yeah.
He would have been proud of me, and he already said it when he passed away. He's proud of what I already have become. You know, so that he was already pleased on that because he already saw where I was going.
I love that. I love that. Kevin, what would you like your daddy to see now? What was the biggest lesson that he taught you, that impact?
I think that the biggest lesson that he taught me is, and instilled in me, is to bounce back. Bounce back. And I say that because in this life, in Scripture says, you know, you're going to have trials and tribulations. You're going to go through things. There are going to be problems, and it's going to knock you down. But you being knocked down doesn't mean you can't stand back up. And even the many things that I've been through, being knocked down, my father was always saying, you can always get back up. But you have to decide, is it worth it? And every single time I felt that life has knocked me down, someone has done to me, or something I did to myself, and I'm laying down. But in all of this, I remember my father just saying, you have everything you need to get back up. You have reasons to get back up. And every single time, I was able to get back up, all because I've seen him take the hit. You know, I've seen him take the fall. I've seen him not have good days. But in all these things, he got back up, and he was my example. Even today is not easy for me. It really is. If truth be told, because even this morning I got a call saying that my uncle is not doing well. He suffered cardiac arrest, and I'm going, wow. One thing after another. And a lot of people would say, forget it. I can't do this anymore. But then God spoke to me and said, look at what your father did. Look at the stuff that he went through. The years of being on dialysis. The times you have to take him to, every Tuesday I took him to dialysis. And I can see the pain on his face. I can see the issues on his face. But each and every day, and he's the strongest man I know. Each and every day, he got up, put his clothes on, and did what he had to do. My father was a resilient man, and he taught me how to bounce back. And if there's something that, you know, if he was here today, that I would love for him to see, as a matter of fact, it was probably 2 years ago. It was a time where we thought that he was not going to make it. And, you know, I talked to him about this book that I was writing called Spiritual Vitamins. And he was like, I can't see why, you know, sometimes fathers can be discouraging until they actually see what happened. So I wrote a book called Spiritual Vitamins, Daily Nutrients for Your Spirit. And I dedicated it to my father and to my mother. My mother passed 3 years ago. So my father and mother have gone to be with the Lord. But when he saw the book called Spiritual Vitamins, he took it in his hand. And I showed him where his name is in the book. He held that book for hours.
He loved that book then.
Yeah, and a lot of there are a lot of I would say vitamins that are in there is based upon this conversation and just sitting with him and observing him and writing a spiritual vitamin so that others can be inspired. So his work, his life lives on through me, through my brother Dexter, through my brother Tracy, and through my sister Monique, and even our my children, Morgan Faith and Logan Hope. His life lives through us. And even right now, I'm just thinking about, man, he was a great man that instilled things that is still going throughout generations. He left a legacy, and his legacy is still going on.
I love it. I remember when my father texted me one time. He was like, I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not trying to be rude, but what is a life coach? Like, what y'all do? What do y'all do?
Right.
He was like, what do y'all do? Right. And I was like,
that's not a real job. Come on.
Right. After I broke it.
That's not a doctor, lawyer, fireman, policeman.
Right.
What's a life coach?
D.L. Hughley, I went to a show one time. He asked me the same thing, so I had to break it down. So I'm used to breaking it down. It's so funny because my father was like, well, what is it? And you know, remember I told you he's sarcastic. So he was like, I'm not trying to be. What is it? And I broke it down. He was like, oh, okay. He's like, because I hear about it. I hear people saying it. But what is it? And it was like low key, like you try to be funny, but he wasn't. But it's so funny. That just reminded me, like spiritual vitamin. What? But he had all my books. He had all the stuff. You know, he was there. His life was debilitating for a while because when I was 18 years old, they thought he had MS. So I had to get tested for MS. Then found out they thought it was so many different things, but his muscle would deteriorate to where he was losing the muscle mass in his legs and his arms to the point where he'd be like, I know if I get old, who's going to take care of me? Kendell, like I would go to his house for like 20 something years. That's where I would go for Thanksgiving. So Thanksgiving is always weird for me. 20 something years. We would all go to Thanksgiving at his house. It'd be like 50 people, and I would make his plate because his muscles were deteriorating. Got to a point where he couldn't even hold his plate. He couldn't definitely scoop anything in, and it progressively got worse. And then that added to when he passed away, and then he had like cancer in his bones. It was a lot of different things, but you think about fathers, and you think about people. You think about men, you think about black men, you think about the impact that someone has on you, even if they don't even know that they have it on you. The little things you pick up, the little things you hear, you know, the humor. You look at, I remember when he was in the hospital bed, I was looking at his, you know, even though I've seen him a million times, you know if this may be the last person you see. I mean, the last time you see them. I remember I was looking at his fingers. I was looking at his hands. I was trying to look at everything in a whole different way. Because when you know or you think that you may lose someone, that's the last time that you're going to see their physical. So you try to catch it all. Even if you've seen them every day, you still catch it. You know, I've been around my father, I don't even know, more times than I don't even know how to count that high. But it's a difference when you realize the fragility of life and you see people, you know, and you just don't know. In this world, you don't know when the last time you're going to see a person. And let alone one of your parents, let alone your father. And it is Father's Day, and we're celebrating fathers. Like, what is the one thing, and we're going to end, like, what is the one thing that you can say, dang, I got that from my daddy? Like my dad, I got that no doubt from my daddy, like a personality trait. Because I could see some of mine. What are some of you guys where you'd be like, dang, I got the, you know, the humor or the sarcasm, or, you know, my mom's kind of funny too, but like that whole vibe. What do you think that you got that adds to your personality from your dad? Anybody could go.
I would definitely say his attitude. I would definitely say my father's attitude. I know I can't be just like him when it comes to his attitude, you know.
Okay, anybody else? Good.
I think for me, my father was an introvert and an extrovert.
Ambivert,
He was an introvert, but situational extrovert.
Mm-hmm.
Because my father was a master barber for 40, 50, 60, I don't know, long time. And, when he's at home and just chilling, he's quiet. He's not really saying much. But then put him in a situation that starts, and then people talking about football, in the barber chair, you talk about everything. So one thing in the barber chair, next thing you know, he starts talking. He starts joking. He starts being playful, that kind of stuff. So that's how I got that from my dad. So I tell everybody, be afraid.
I can see that.
It comes out.
I can see that with you because you seem so serious, and then all of a sudden you just hit us with a joke and just be like, oh, okay, Kevin. Calvin and Leroy, what about you? And you say your jokes dry too, Kevin. You be dry with your jokes.
Listen, they're not dry. You have a lot of people making millions of dollars, and they're comedians, and their jokes be so
But
dry.
that's why I'm
I
saying.
need to change career.
Yeah, no, but that's what I'm saying is like you'd be serious and you'd be like, oh, he joking. What about you, Calvin and Leroy?
That's it.
I know, I got it. What about you, Calvin and Leroy?
For me, I think I know one of them is the passion for teaching, and not just like in a classroom, but like every day, all day.
Mm-hmm.
Like dropping jewels, or maybe that's the wrong term, because when it's coming from you, you don't necessarily always think like, oh, I'm dropping jewels a day. You just think, you asked me a question, and I actually have an experience in that, so let me explain in detail that experience to help you, or the advice that I give on a regular whatever. And I started that at a young age as well. In high school, I would meet somebody, and within 2 seconds of meeting them, just hello, my name is. And they just start opening up about their whole life, deep details and stuff like that. So I get that from my father. Nice.
Leroy, other than his whole face?
I know, right? The whole face. The whole face.
Oh, that's for me too. Me too.
But other than that, I'll say, as far as characteristics go, his grit, his determination, his tenacity. One of the things that was just instilled in me is you don't stop until it gets done. You do what you need to do in order to be able to finish what it is that you started. I remember one time we were in practice, and he told us and the guys as we're practicing, he was like, I don't care if he was going to run us until we couldn't run anymore. He said, if you got to throw up, go run, throw up, do what you need to do, and come back out here and keep running and start running again. That was him. That was the way that he was. It was just like you accomplish what it is that you want to accomplish. You do what you say you're going to do. Keep your word, and you work. I can't remember him called as a teacher, as a coach, even as a pastor. I don't remember him missing days from work. Mm-hmm. Him and my mother were just they had this work ethic, and they both passed that on to me. Where I was like, whatever I got to do to get it done, that's
me.
What I'm doing. You show up every day.
Right. Yep. I got that. That's true. That's good. That's good. That's real good. Yeah, that's good, guys. This is good. I have 2 more questions for you. One thing that you want to tell your father right now that you've never told him or that you've told him before. And second, I want you all, because this is a village that I created here today. And, with God, God just drops things in my spirits. Do this, do this, do this. And this is one of the shows that, I heard from God and I jumped up. So I want you all to be a village for one another because men need men, yes?
Amen.
And you all have something in common where you might meet another man who doesn't have this in common. So I want you to pour into one another. First, I want you to tell separately what you would tell your father right now if he was listening. What would you say to him? Very short, very simple. And then I want you to just talk to each other for a moment. But whoever wants to go first, what would you tell? I would tell my father, we good. I love you. We good. Simple as that. and I could see him smiling, and I'm smiling back at him, what would you say? Oh, and his name is Robert. Look, y'all gonna laugh. Bobby Edwards. Y'all know I love me some Bobby Brown. My daddy's name is Bobby.
Yeah, we know.
They call.
You like Bobby Brown? No, you don't. When did you start liking Bobby Brown? Was that something new? No. Get out of here.
So my daddy is Bobby. He was affectionately called Bobby. So he was Robert Theodore Edwards. But everybody called my daddy Bobby. And my daughter, my oldest daughter, was the first grandchild. And when she was younger, she called him Grandbob. And it stuck. So my dad's name with my kids is Grandbob. So that's all it's been, is Grandbob. You know, happy Father's Day. You know, you are missed. And I'm smiling right now. You know, you're missed. I remember one time my dad, I have to say this real quick. So one time I told you, my dad and I had some ups and downs. And I remember 96.3 Howard University, I believe it was that, or it might have been something else, 92Q maybe, but they had a Father's Day giveaway, and you had to write an essay about your father and all of this other stuff. Well, I won the darn essay. I won the gifts. My father got all of these gifts, but they had to call my dad while he was on air, while they were on air, to tell him he won. Well, my dad didn't recognize the number, so the radio station called him 4 times, and he would not pick up the phone. So they called me like, we're trying to, you know, surprise your dad. You guys won, you know, you won the essay, and we want to give your dad all of this stuff. So I had to spoil it and call him. I was like, a number's going to call you, just pick up. So he picked up, he was on the radio, they said he won. It was so emotional. And after that, you know what he called me and said, y'all? He said, you really don't hate me. You really love me.
Wow.
And I was like, I never hated you.
Well,
but sometimes when people have their own guilt because they wish they would have done it this way or that way, that is implied, I guess, you know, so they have to work through that. But he won all of this stuff. And you know what he did? He gave the stuff back to me. I was like, the gifts are for you. But he was on the radio, and that was probably when I was about 33. So that was like right after that, you know, that time where I discovered. But so what would you say to your dad?
I would tell him I love him.
Love it.
You know, I would tell him that, you know, that I have never stopped loving him as my dad, and I'm not afraid to tell a man that I love my dad. You know, that would be the thing that I would say to him right now.
I love that. What about you, Leroy?
You know,
First, I would say I love him. I say thank you. You know, thank you for your legacy. Thank you for everything that you have done for me and for those that you've touched in your life. And I appreciate the fact that, you know, that you were who you were, regardless of anything else. You were who you are, and you showed me the same thing, to be who I was authentically. And as long as God was happy with me and that I'm pleasing to, you know, him and my mother, anybody else doesn't matter.
I know that's right. I know that's right.
So thank you.
Kevin, what would you tell Leroy Montague?
That I miss him, and that I understand now the things that he thought I didn't understand, but now I got it. And also that I love him. One of the things growing up in my household was we weren't the most affectionate house. We didn't say I love you. We didn't give hugs and, you know, and handshake, stuff like that. It was only through tragedy we started to open ourselves up to the real feelings and emotions that was needed to help bring forth healing and understanding and compassion to a point where it was comfortable to say that I love you to my brothers,
That's
to
deep.
my sister, to my mother, and to my father. It didn't feel strange anymore or weird to say that I love you, Daddy, and I love you, Mommy, I love you, Dexter, Tracy, Monique. It didn't feel strange.
That's deep.
Even now, I'm able to tell my daughters, Morgan, and my daughter, Logan, to be able to say, I love you, and I don't, and I'm not ashamed or shy about it.
Wow.
So I just want to publicly say that I love you, Daddy.
Oh, wow. Wow. Brother Calvin Sr., what would you tell him? Brother Calvin Jr.? Calvin, you there?
Yeah. On mute.
Okay. I'm sorry. What would you tell Brother Calvin Sr.? Your daddy.
I would say I'm still working on Plan C, Dad. Still working on Plan C.
Oh, I love that. You know what? I love when men call their dads daddy or dad. Like, it's very sweet because you can see a grown man as a young boy at heart and still wanting the love and the approval and want to be just like their daddies. Like, I feel that, talking to you all, like the reverence for your dad. And I love the fact that all of you have different daddy stories, different father stories. And at the end of the day, losing your dad, that's the common denominator, that it doesn't even matter what your dad was like, what he did, what he didn't do. The impact is still the same. What would you share with your brother as we end? And you can decide who you want to talk to. I want one of you men to talk to the other man about the impact of fatherhood and losing your dad, and just have a conversation quickly with another person who guys can choose who you want as we end. So you guys choose who you, yeah.
But who do you want?
Yeah, choose one of the guys. Like Leroy, you can talk to Kevin. Kevin can talk to Anthony, like who you want.
I'm going to talk to all of them.
Okay.
I'm going to talk to all of them. I don't want to talk to one individual. To all the brothers on here. One, thank you for coming on today. Thank you for sharing your story with us here on the podcast, but then also with those that will listen to it. We have a commonality that this is a club that we don't want to be a part of, but we have to be a part of, if that makes any sense to everybody. And we as men, we walk this journey. We walk this journey as sons and as those whose footsteps that we walk in. I know for me, one of the biggest things was carrying my father's name, because I'm junior as well. So carrying his name is part of the legacy that I have, and I take ownership of. And I'm glad, and it's funny because I'm glad that my father wanted in naming me, because my mother wanted to name me Harold.
All right, Harold.
I know Harold.
Right?
I ain't got no brother's name Harold. I got a brother named Leroy. All right, Harry.
So we do this thing and we go, and I know for me, my father may not be here in the physical, but he lives through me when I look in the mirror, as I say, but then also in the things that I do and the things that he taught me and instilled in me. And when I'm proud when people say, like the one brother said, yeah, that's Mac's son, because that's what they called my father. They called him Mac. That's Mac's son, or that's LC's son, because they called him LC's son. So I take that, and I think I want all of us, hopefully, to be able to carry that with what our fathers poured into us and gave to us. Whether it's good or bad, because there were some bad things that my father gave me too. That I was like, yeah, I learned that because of what he did and what not to do.
Yeah,
so
that's a big lesson. A big lesson is to do what he didn't do. That's good. A lesson that a dad can teach you is doing the thing that he didn't do. So that's good. That's good. Anyone else? That's good, Leroy. Anyone else?
Yeah, it's hard to talk to just one individual. So I echo wanting to talk to everybody.
Yeah, and let me just tell you my reasoning behind that. It was because everybody needs to be sometimes ministered differently, and it's something that could have sat with someone's spirit that they were drawn to speak to a one person or not. That's why I said that. But speaking to all is just as beautiful. Yeah.
I definitely got that. For those that are not a father biologically, I pray that God will open up the door for you to be connected to some young man or girl to be that father figure that they stand in need of. Everything that you've gone through, everything that you have endured, is for a purpose, so that others can see your pain, but also experience your love.
That's good.
Because God has created you and molded you in a way to be that vessel that they need and able to go a little bit further, find the hope that they need, and be the successful man or woman that God has created them to be. And then for that brother who has a child, I understand. I feel your pain, but you know what? In the end, it's going to be worth it. Stay committed. Stay honest. Stay transparent. But be available to be uncomfortable, so that someone else can grow and see that they can make it like you did.
Love it. Love it. Anyone else? And I also want to know if the biological fathers on the panel see themselves or saying something that their father said to them, if they've said it to their kids.
See, here we go.
I brought you in this world, I take you out. I brought you in this world, I take you out.
You know, the thing is that comes to mind when I think about this, when I share with everybody, I did not know that Kevin went through the same thing I went through. Not exactly the same thing, but, similar, seeing something like that happen to you.
Yeah.
And I told Kendell this, I had to get free therapy for this. I mean, it was really shocking because for me, I didn't process this that very well, because if it were someone like my grandmother when she passed, I had no break in communication with her. But when I had breaking communication with my father and losing him the way I lost him, it was harder to process because I felt like I lost something. And this situation of hearing everybody talk now tonight, or today rather, it gave me a different perspective on how everybody pursued or viewed their father in their own eyes.
Love that.
And when I look at how I raised my son, and the pursuit, because I had 3 children, and the pursuit on how I raised my son, and the patience that I have, and the longevity that I give him, and giving him the opportunity to figure it out, not allowing him to fail. I don't worry about my son failing, but I do make him try. And that's one of the things that I have done with him, of what I didn't have from my father. Now, I'm not taking away from my dad today, but I am taking the opportunity to say that he told me what happens when you don't see things
And I think every one of us got a chance to experience their dad in their own eyes and what they could take from it. But in this process of the early process of losing your father, it's like I would share with anybody. It's like, you know what, guys, just take one day at a time, man, and enjoy what he gave us, you know. And also remember that part of him never did die because it still lives inside you. That's the part that nobody talks about, that he still lives inside of you because he's a part of who you are.
Yeah.
So even though he's gone, there's still things I remember about my father and the things the way I do with my father, with my dad, and how I do things now. He actually really never left. So that's the part that I would share with y'all guys tonight.
I love that. And many don't know, Anthony and I went to high school together and ran track together. We were both fast. We both killed it. We got the medals and all that, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
He ended up coaching track and field. So that's how me and Anthony known each other, like I said, since high school. Shout out South Jersey. Calvin, what would you say to the brothers? Or a brother, whatever you feel in your spirit. As the baby of the bunch.
Thank you all again. Thank you all again for sharing and participating. It's definitely good to hear the stories and hear the similarities and just take beautiful pieces of encouragement from everybody's story. So I appreciate you all sharing.
I love that.
Amen.
I love that. All right.
Yes,
so
sir.
as we conclude, does anybody, I want you guys to speak your dad's names and pay, homage and tribute to him. Leroy, you start, even though we said it.
Leroy McKenzie Sr.
Nice. Calvin?
Calvin Donald Tucker Sr.
Kevin?
Leroy Montague, the greatest daddy and man that ever lived.
Oh, Anthony?
About that.
Anthony John Washington Sr.
Wow. And again, mine, Bobby Edwards. We appreciate you. We appreciate all the fathers out there who have loved their children imperfectly or perfectly, who have been an influence in their children's lives, directly or indirectly, who have made a strong impact in the lives of their children. As Anthony said, they're inside of you still. So even all of the ones out there who have lost their parent, their father, and particularly on this Father's Day, know that you are not alone. As you've seen on this panel, we've all lost our dads. We all are learning to cope with it and thinking about the memories and being able to laugh and see us inside of them and them inside of us. That brings solace. And also having conversations like this keep our fathers alive. So today I wanted to honor all the fathers out there, all the pop-pops, all the granddaddies, the dads, the papas, whatever you call. And it doesn't even have to be a biological father. It could be someone who fathered you, a godfather, an uncle, or whoever that made that strong impact in your life to make you who you are today. Don't focus on what you didn't have. Focus on what you did have, and you had a father. And I just wanted to take a moment to celebrate that. Anyone have last words before we end?
Thank you all for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kendell. Appreciate you, and I pray that this message actually touches someone and changes lives. You've done something major, and may God pour back into you all that you helped us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Anybody else as we end? All right. I want to thank Leroy. I want to thank Calvin. I want to thank Kevin. And I want to thank Anthony, as hopefully you all will be a bridge or a brotherhood, like Leroy said, that, you know, it's a kind of club that you don't want to be in, but God put us in. So we need people around. You guys need, not even me, just as black men together, having these real conversations and sharing, you know, on, like Kevin said, this is not a good day. Like, this is not a good day for him. He just lost his dad not even a year ago. You know, Leroy lost his in 2012. It doesn't get any easier, but you're able to manage. So I just want to thank you all for answering the call literally and doing this spur of the moment show. But our love for our fathers is never spur of the moment. Thank you, everybody, for listening to Shine with Kendell Lenice. Remember, you are a star, so don't allow anyone to dim your shine. Until next time, God bless. Peace. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Shine with Kendell Lenice. Real talk for real people. Let's shine together.
Thanks for listening. This has been a Kenny Lynn production.